going on? You're watching Nick's Kitchen. Natural junior bodybuilder Nick Wright. And of course, gaining size, growing muscle happens in the kitchen, not in the gym, definitely not in your supplement store. So we just went food shopping, keeping the budget real tight right now, like anybody else who's in my age range, early 20s is going to. So I'm going to show you guys little tricks that I use to make a little bit go a whole long way. Alright, so what we're doing here is using up the very last of my chicken I already had cooked up. It's for the most part pretty plain because I ran out of all my condiments and ingredients. So just plain chicken, plain potato. Check this out. When you don't have any condiments left in the house, you don't have any ketchup, barbecue sauce, mayo, anything left in the house, the one thing you probably do have in every household will actually work just fine. Little fun fact of America, maple syrup goes well on anything. Try it out. And realistically, unless you're in a pre-contest prep, you're getting about 52 grams for a fourth of a cup of this. You gotta figure you're using maybe a tablespoon at most. It's literally just a few carbs. It's not too bad at all. And it goes phenomenally on chicken and potatoes. Bam. You just sweeten this up. But now that we went grocery shopping, let's switch it up a little bit, turn it up, and I'll show you how I usually cook my chicken to make it so plain old dry, boneless, skinless chicken breast is actually exciting to eat. Virtually no money spent. Not quite frozen yet, boneless, skinless chicken breast, Walmart. Looking at 11 bucks for all this. Okay, now all you really need, apart from your chicken, a big old frying pan. Doesn't have to be this big. It all depends on how much you're planning on cooking. And last but not least, you're gonna want Masterpiece Marinade Teriyaki. This is the honey teriyaki, and make sure it's marinade. And of course, Masterpiece is just a good old brand. Big old Ronnie Coleman swore by Masterpiece when it came to a steak sauce, so we're gonna stick with it. And honey teriyaki seems to be my favorite taste out of all the ones I've tried. So what we're gonna do is a little bit different than how you usually marinate chicken. Typically what you do is you throw the meat, whether it's chicken or steak, into a bag of some sort. You dump this in it as well and let it sit for X amount of time before finally cooking it. You let the taste soak in, but we're gonna do it a little bit backwards this time around. You're going to want to apply PAM for all your nonstick needs. Even if the pan is Teflon, it just makes life a lot easier. Always it over the sink. No slippery floors needed. A little trick when cutting up the chicken, you want to make sure, of course, it's diced up into pretty small pieces. Maybe about 3/4 of an inch, square, 3/4 of an inch. And a little trick is, if you can actually stick the chicken in the freezer, don't completely freeze it so it's brick hard, but get it just slightly frozen. It'll actually cut much easier, and you can almost chop it and dice it just like you would a cucumber or a zucchini. It makes it a much more easier task to cut the chicken up. About 3/4 of an inch, square inch at most. You want enough where you're going to be able to cook in bulk, but you don't want to have so much that you're going to overcrowd your pan and risk missing some pieces or cooking it unevenly. So match it up to about the size of your pan. Once you have it all diced up, simply slide it on in. At this point, depending on the size of your pan, depending on how much chicken you have, and depending on the size of your actual burner, you can adjust the grill a little bit. In my case, I have to turn it up a notch because the burner is actually a little bit too small for my pan, and I have a lot of chicken here. So I'm turning it up to about 7 or 8 right now, pretty high. This is the difference. Instead of letting it sit beforehand, we simply just add it to the chicken after the fact. Don't need a whole lot. That's actually a little bit. Now, if you're calorie counting and macro tracking, say you're pre-contest, or just very fixed on counting your macros during your off season, you can always break this up by tablespoon. It's only about 9 grams of carbohydrates per tablespoon and pretty much nothing else. So it's about 35 calories, given that 1 gram of carbs is about 4 calories. So you can do it that way, break it up by the spoon dosage so you know how much you're getting. I personally don't bother with it simply because a lot of this ends up going to waste anyway. You see a lot of it pool up in the bottom of the pan while you're cooking your chicken, and a lot of it ends up just getting strained and drained out after you're done cooking your chicken. That said, try to go light on it. Remember, less is more. You're going to not need as much as you might think you need when you're initially pouring it on. Immediately you want to scramble it up, distribute the teriyaki sauce evenly so it's fully consumed. You want your chicken to be fully brown, but be patient, because at first it may not seem like it's all brown. You need more. Remember, a lot of it is puddling up on the bottom, so keep stirring it around until it's fully covered. And remember, this is a lot of chicken, so we can actually add a little bit more to it. See, I initially thought I added too much, but I actually didn't add quite enough for this amount of chicken. That's starting to look more like it. You want it nice and brown. There we go. I like to lift the chicken up with the spatula as opposed to just dumping it, kind of strain the chicken. This actually leaves the teriyaki in the pan, the leftover teriyaki, so you don't have to use as much with the next load of chicken.
Waiting for her to begin the first movement.
Are you really? Wow. Okay. So there you have it. Honey teriyaki chicken. All it cost was about 12 bucks. That's going to last for a while and taste phenomenal. You will literally get excited to eat this. The smell tastes great. The taste tastes phenomenal. It works like that. And actually what complements this chicken, best of all I've found, is the most least expected carb source, white rice. White rice seems pretty plain. It's a pretty bland tasting thing in general. But the exact texture, the exact little taste that it does have happens to complement the honey teriyaki chicken phenomenally. So you cook up some white rice, throw this on top, make a big bowl for yourself. It is the best meal in the world. Rich in protein, high in quality carbohydrates. And remember guys, let us be real. We went over this in the carbohydrate video that white rice versus brown rice is irrelevant. Glycemic index is a flawed and inaccurate system, and it's irrelevant. White rice is no worse for you than brown rice. They're both carbohydrates. It's all your personal preference. And personally, I prefer white rice with honey teriyaki chicken. If you guys enjoyed this, subscribe now, and of course, feel free to bring all your questions to me or share your own progress or meal ideas on the Nick Wright Bodybuilding Facebook page.